All right, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Well, first of all, thanks for coming. This is my first live streaming, so let's see if we can figure out that if everything is working correctly or not. Everyone is able to hear me correctly. You can use the chat window to on the right hand side to ask me questions, or you can tell me that if you can hear me. I think that will be great. All right, let's go ahead and okay, so you can hear me. Okay, so that's good. Thank you so much for everyone for coming. I am loud and clear. Okay. All right, so thank you so much everyone for coming. And today you're going to learn, or I'm going to just talk about a little bit about SwiftUI and how you can get started with SwiftUI. All right, so this is very basic stuff that we will be covering in this session. Now, you don't really have to follow along and anything like that. Just try to see what's going on. It will be, if you have actually worked with SwiftUI, then you will find this to be like very, very simple. All right. So I already have Xcode, so I'm going to go ahead and see if I can launch Xcode. Let me actually close Xcode and launch it again. There we go. And, and once you see the font size and everything, you can let me know if the font size is big enough for you or should I make it bigger. I'm going to go ahead and create a new project in Xcode. And I think that streaming is actually lacking a little bit. Maybe my sound is definitely getting there first because I can definitely see it's actually lacking quite a lot. I'm not sure if I have to do something about that or not, but I'm going to select iOS and app and name my project something. Let's say hello SwiftUI. Yeah, let me go ahead and first create the project so I can make the font bigger. Okay, now the font might be too small. Not a big deal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there we go. Yeah, the stream is lacking a lot. I mean, I can definitely see that I'm actually even done creating the project. Yeah, sound should be okay. Okay, can you see the font? I've increased the font size like 5 times, but is this big enough for you or do you want me to go even bigger? Let me know if the font size is okay or not. Right, definitely it is lacking. Is it lacking on your part also? I mean, well, I guess you can't really tell at this point. All right. So everyone can see the font size, everything, font size is fine. Okay. All right. So we have created our application. This is our Swift UI application. And this is kind of like the new way of building your iOS apps. All right. And we're just going to discuss kind of like the very basic stuff that what we can do with SwiftUI and a couple of different important things related to SwiftUI like state management. Now, first thing you will notice is that it doesn't really have any, you know, it doesn't have any MVC, no controller, no nothing. That is might be the as large as I can go with the font. I just increase like 5 more times. All right, so we're like at 30 now. Now, to get started with SwiftUI, the first thing you will note is that we have a view over here, which is represented by a structure, a struct. And yeah, I think it's lacking way too much. Is it lacking on your part? I mean, yeah, I'm putting like yeah, it's definitely lacking a lot. I wonder if there is a way to make it better. Maybe it's because it is, let's see if I can figure something out. I have not done this before. Let me see. Output, stream, audio, video, all of these things are actually locked out because please turn off any outputs to change the video stream. I think right now it's outputting at 1920 by 10p. I don't really know, maybe that's the issue that is lacking or not, but okay. So right now we are getting text over here. You can see in the content view we have the text. That is a view that is being displayed, and you can see over there on the right hand side in the preview it simply says hello world. All right. Now if I want to add something else to SwiftUI, there are many different ways of doing that. I can go ahead and command click on the text and I can select VStack and I can wrap the whole thing with VStack. All right, so now everything is wrapped with VStack and I can go ahead and add whatever I want. So I can go ahead and add a button. All right. I think on your stream I can see that it's still adding a VStack and it hasn't even added a button yet. So you are quite behind in that case. I'll have to figure that out. I don't know if there's a way to just go completely live, so whatever I'm doing you can just see it instantly. All right. Okay, so this is how you will be creating your apps in the future or even right now with a declarative UI with SwiftUI. You can see that we have used a text view, we have used a button view, and as soon as we add something, and that's a really cool part of SwiftUI, as soon as you add these controls or these views, on the right hand side is a preview that gets updated automatically. So you can see these previews getting updated instantly as you are creating it. And I think that is really, really cool, and I think it will allow you to allow you to see all of those things. So Carl is saying that Carl is not seeing any delay. Okay, let me know if you can see what I'm writing on the screen. Yeah, go ahead and type it out on the chat so I know that you can see what I typed on the screen. So you can't see anything that I typed on the screen. It's handwritten note. Okay, now you can see it, I guess, but it's pretty delay actually that's going on. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's, well, yeah, now you can see it. So there's a very big delay. I typed it like 8 seconds ago. So there's a pretty big delay going on. All right. Okay. All right. So let's see other things with SwiftUI. We have seen the text. You have seen the button, right? I mean, there are some other controls that you can actually see. What about if I want to make a list? What about if I want to make a list? I can create a list, and you will see that how easy it is to create a list in SwiftUI. And we're not really learning over here list or anything, but you can see that now I have written a list, I've implemented a list, and how easy it is for you to create a particular list. All right. Okay, so you heard and saw at the same time. Okay. So it means that the audio and the video is also, both of them are synced and they are both delayed. But okay, so that's actually fine. So thank you for telling me that. So that makes more sense. All right. So this is how we will create a list. All right. Okay, so this is now, we can see the list. You can see the list on the right hand side, which is great. Now, one of the things that is interesting to learn with, and mandatory basically to learn with SwiftUI, is the state management. All right, so we have already seen the text control, the button control, and all that stuff. That's fine, but let's create something a little bit more practical, so that will allow us to also learn something about SwiftUI. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create an image, and my image will be based on some sort of a image that is already available. All right, so I'm going to use bulb, but I think I can always use San Francisco fonts to find out the actual spelling of bulb. Okay, so this is light bulb. So let's go ahead and use light bulb. And you can see the image is being displayed. Now I can go ahead and make this image a little bit bigger. So I can go ahead and probably say like a font size and larger title. And now you can see that my image is being displayed. That's fine. I would also like to add a button over here, and I would like to say turn on, meaning when I click the button, it should turn on the particular light bulb. The text that I'm passing over here in the button, that is the text of the button, as you can see. And the closure over here is the one that is going to allow me to invoke the button click or the tap. Now, what do I want to do when you tap a button? Well, we right now are using light bulb system icon, whatever you want to call it. I want to go ahead and replace the light bulb. I want to turn it on. Now, there is one place where I can use, if I just say lightbulb.fill, there is a different icon which will allow me to show that the light is turned on. But I want to turn on only when I click a button, right? But how can we do that? So for this, there is something called state. And we're going to go ahead and create this state right on the top somewhere. I'm going to use private variable also, or a private access modifier, which is going to tell me that this is a private state, meaning the local state. But what exactly is a state? So a state is something that can hold a value, and whenever you change the state and you use that state value in your body, then your view is rendered again. Let's see what does that actually even mean. All right. What about if we just don't use state? If I remove the state and I just try to change this to on or turn it on, right? That's not really going to work. And the reason that's not going to work is that you are currently inside a structure. And inside the struct, you can't really, the struct is immutable. Self is immutable, meaning you can't really change the values. So that's why we have to use the state, which is a property wrapper introduced in SwiftUI, which is going to allow you to change the value of a variable. And it will, whenever it changes the value of this state variable called isOn, it is also going to re-evaluate your view so that it can refresh. So let's go over here, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we can toggle between the state on and off. So we can turn the light on or we can turn the light off. Every time the state is going to change, which we are changing on line number 19 whenever we click a button, we can use that particular state to check. If it's on, then we will use a lightbulb.fill, but if you're not on, we will use lightbulb. So we are using the ternary operator over here to make sure that we are able to switch between lightbulb.fill versus just the light bulb. Let's go ahead and run it. In order to run it, we can simply click on this play button and we can run our preview. If I click on the turn on button, you can see that the light bulb is now getting filled, which means that it's on. And if I turn it on again, it is now not filled. So this is how we're creating this kind of effect that you can turn on your light bulb and you can turn it off again. You can basically toggle between them. Every single time you are changing the state, which is on line number 19, you're toggling between true and false. And since we are using the state on line number 16, it is causing the whole body to be reevaluated, and the parts that are being changed are being reevaluated and re-rendered, meaning your user interface is now getting updated. It's getting synced with the state. All right. But there is another problem that you may be able to see. Even though the light is turned on, the button always says turn on. Maybe the button text should also change between turning it on or turning it off. How can we do that? And you should be able to do that with the code that we have written for switching between the two images. So let's go ahead and do the same logic over here, that if it is on, then we will simply go ahead and say turn it off. If it is, or else, we will simply say turn on. And now if I run this, it actually works a little bit better. You can see that I can turn on. When I turn on, it says turn off. When it's off, it says turn on. So this is a little bit much better. All right. But one thing to really understand about the state, which is very important, is even though you're changing the state on line number 19, if I remove this part from line number 16 and also 18, meaning I don't use the state, I simply change it, then the body property will not be re-rendered, meaning then the view will not be refreshed, because there's no point in refreshing the view since you're not really using the state variable. But we are using it on two different places, and that is why the body gets re-rendered, meaning the body gets re-evaluated and refreshed. And that's why the value of the state is in sync with the actual UI. All right. Anyone has any questions at this point? You can type your questions on the chat if you have any questions. All right. Okay, so what will be our next step? So this is state, and state is extremely important because it allows you to make sure that your data and your UI are both synced. Now, one of the things that we can do over here is currently we have created this image as well as this button, and this is part of our main content view. But in SwiftUI, it is always a good idea to create child views, meaning, subviews. So maybe we can move all of this information into a different view, and we can call it light bulb view also, I guess, light bulb view. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to use the same file. Now you can use a different file if you want to, but I'm just going to use the same file. And I'm going to go ahead and create light bulb view. And one thing that is required is that I need to implement the body. That is a requirement, and the body will represent whatever the view I want to show. So I'm going to go ahead and copy some of the parts of the view that I already had. And I will also copy this part. So basically I'm moving all the stuff into my new view, new fancy view called lightbulb view. And now I can simply use my lightbulb view instead of typing all of that out. The result will be kind of same. If I go ahead and run this, it will still work as expected. We just moved all the code from content view into a separate view called the lightbulb view, but the result is exactly the same. All right. Now there is one problem over here. And the problem is that the content view is saying that, hey, lightbulb view, whenever you turn on or off, you let me know because I want to change the background of my screen too. Let's go ahead and see that how we can change the background. Well, I can simply change the background of any view by just doing something like this, just adding a background modifier. It works, but you can see that the VStack, it's so small. We want it to cover like the whole screen, right? So let's give it like some sort of a frame. And let's say that the frame is infinite and also the height is infinite. Okay, much better. But now the view is always colored with yellow. I want to toggle between the yellow and the white. So this means that whenever the light bulb is on, it should become yellow, and when the light bulb is off, it should become white. The background should become white, something like this. But how do we do this? The problem is that the light bulb is turning it on and off, and the light bulb view is maintaining the state. You can see the state variable is private also, which you should keep it private because nobody else should be able to get the state. It's a private state, local state. So now we're in a problem. We want to find out when the light bulb is turned on versus when the light bulb is turned off, because based on that, the content view likes to change the color from yellow to white and white to yellow. Now, one of the other things that was introduced in SwiftUI is the concept of something called binding. Let's go to our light bulb view and change the state to something called binding. But what exactly is this binding thing? Well, binding is simply saying that the light bulb view, when you're creating the light bulb view, you will be passing in some sort of a state from the outside. As you can see on line number 29, now it's complaining that, hey, you were supposed to pass something in there, but you didn't. Binding is usually passed to the child views, which exactly is what we're doing. So inside our content view, let's go ahead and pass in is on. It's not simply a Boolean value that you will be passing. This is where you will be passing in the binding value. Binding value simply means that if you pass in over here is on, which basically is this property right there, the dollar sign is indicating that this is a binding property, which means that if this property changes inside the light bulb view, then also let the parent know that that has changed and refresh the parent. And that's the most important part for us. So what's going to happen is that on line number 29, we are going to be passing in the is on as a binding value. This is going to go to our light bulb view. Light bulb view is going to toggle the value, toggle the is on property from true to false. Anytime this property is toggled, and since this property is marked with binding, the content view also gets refreshed because we were passing the state value or a binding value from the content view to the child view. And since the content view is getting refreshed, this is our opportunity to make a condition over here. If it is on, then go ahead and make it yellow, else make it white. So again, binding is something that you will always pass from the parent to the child. Anytime the child is going to change that value, which we are doing on line number 18, then it is also going to tell the parent that, hey, something got changed, so you better refresh now. And that will allow us to re-evaluate the body again, hence refreshing it again. With those changes, let's go ahead and run the application again. This time when I click on turn on, you can see that it is changing the background color of the parent, and I turn off, it is changing the background color of the parent again to white. Even though all of the code for turning on and off is inside the light bulb view, we are able to pass the value up to the parent, and the parent is also able to utilize that whether the light bulb value is turned on or off, all because of the binding. All right. Any question anyone has at this point? All right. Let's see. Okay. So state values, you learned about the state values, very, very important. State values are the local private state, which keeps the data sync with the UI. The binding is something, a binding property wrapper is basically something that will allow you to pass these values on to the child. Core data and searchable, can you use start date and end date for the date picker for SwiftUI core data binding to filter? Yes, you can. You have to use, I think, binding to capture those values. All right. Logically, does it matter which struct is first? No, it does not matter which struct comes first. Actually, it would be a good idea to probably move this light bulb view into a separate file. All right. Use a separate file for light bulb view. Okay. Okay, so this is great. Everything is working. And now we have a new requirement. All right. We have a new requirement which is saying that whenever there is light is on, we will display sun, like an icon of a sun. Whenever the light is off, we will display the moon. All right. Again, I can use a separate file, but I'm just going to go ahead and use the same exact file over here. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and create a structure, and we will call it day and night view. Again, this is my structure day and night view, and it's going to be displaying either day or night, depending on if the light is turned on or off. Right now, I'm just going to go ahead and start with the day, meaning just going to display the sun. Again, if you are thinking where I'm getting all these names for the icons, let me actually build it first. Well, I'm getting all these names for the icons from the app called SF Symbols. It's a free app that you can download from Apple website. If you just search for SF Symbols, you will be able to find this website. Find this Mac app. Okay, let's go ahead and display the day and night view now. So I'm going to go ahead and see where I want to display that. Probably right over here is fine. Right after the light bulb view. Let's go ahead and run this. Kind of small, you can see. It's pretty small. I can't actually see that this is working correctly, but let me go ahead and change the font size to be large title so I can actually see a little bit. There we go. Much better. All right. So now we have added a brand new control. We have added a day and night view. And the day and night view is, the job of the day and night view is to turn on, or it's to show the sun when the light is on, and show the moon when the light is off. So show sun when light is on and show moon when light is off. So that is what we want to do. Now we can use the same exact technique. We can create some binding thing and pass it around and all that stuff. But in this case, I want to use something a little bit different. I want to create a global state. Global state basically means that that can be accessed by anyone, and if anyone changes that state, then all the different controls which are using that state, that property, will automatically refresh. But how do we create that global state? Well, let's go ahead and see how we can create the global state. I'm going to go ahead and create the global state. Again, you should be creating it in a separate file. I will call this app state. Now in the app state, I'm going to create one property, is on. Now right now, it's just a very simple class with one property called is on, and Boolean value is false. But right now, it's not really a global state, meaning if anybody is going to create an object of app state and change the value is on, nothing will really happen. No view is going to get some sort of event that, hey, is on has changed, you better refresh yourself now. That's not going to happen. In order for the app state to work correctly, and in order for us to change this property and tell every other view that, hey, you want to refresh, you can refresh yourself, we have to do a couple of different things. We have to make sure that we are conforming to observable object. All right. And we also have to make sure that we are marking this with a special property wrapper called published. Observable object introduced in SwiftUI, and basically it is telling us that this object can be observed. Published is basically saying that whenever you change this property is on and you assign a new value to it, like true or false, then it's going to publish an event, and other views can get access to that event or get access to the updated value. Even though we have created app state, we still have to inject the app state to our main view. So basically the whole idea is that if your application consists of multiple components, you will inject mostly the app state, the global state, you inject it to your root element or the root view. And when you inject it on the root view, it is already automatically available on all the other subviews. So that is the whole idea. So let's go ahead and see that how we can inject app state to our root view. Well, who is our root view? If you look at the app file, hello SwiftUI app, you will see that the content view is our root view. We can go ahead and inject the environment object using the environment object function and creating an instance of the environment from the app state. It doesn't have to be called app state. Well, in this case, it has to, I guess, because that's the file that we created. That's the class that we have created, but you can call it global state, app state, whatever thing you want. So now we have injected the content view, the environment object into the content view, which is our root view, and we are injecting app state. This means that the app state will be available to the content view, which is the root view, and also all the different subviews of the content view. Let's go back to our content view. Let's try to read the values from our state. But first, it's important that you change the previews also. If you see on line number 53 till 57, that's where we are creating our previews. Previews is the one that is powering this particular screen, and it is because of the previews that we can see what's going on. So in the preview, we also want to inject the environment object, which is app state. If you don't do that, then the preview will never know that there is something like a global state called app state. Okay, now we can start using our global state. Instead of using this isOn variable, we can actually go ahead and use our environment object. Nope, not this one. Environment object. Var app state, which will be app state. Environment object will be automatically be populated, so you don't really have to do anything else. Since we're using app state and we are not using our local state anymore, we still need to update some of our properties. Now the properties will be coming from app state. The other thing that we have to do is if you're going with that route of creating app state, which is also known as a global state, if you're going with that route, then you don't really need to pass anything now. All of the different views can just read the value from the global state. That's the main purpose of the global state, right? So every view can just read the value from there. So it's kind of like this. It's kind of like a global state right there, which you have created. Global state, which has a bunch of properties. In our case, the only property we have is, I believe, is on. And then you have different views. You have view 1, you have view 2. So instead of views passing values around using binding or anything like that, they're like, well, I need to get a value. I'm just going to go directly to the global state. And that is what we're trying to do. So if we are trying to do that, then the light bulb view shouldn't really be concerned about passing any arguments or taking any arguments. Light bulb view can just directly get the state from the app state. Let's go to the light bulb view, remove the binding part, and replace it with the environment object, which means that the light bulb view is saying that, hey, I'm going to get the value from the global state. I don't need your help, content view. Don't pass me anything. I'll just go directly to the source. So there we go. We'll just change all of these different things and add app state to it, because now the value is coming from the app state. Anytime you will change the app state, and that's the best part, anytime you're going to change the app state, all the different views that were using the app state are automatically refreshed. So you can see on line number 35, we are actually changing the app state. We are changing it. We are toggling the value of the app state. And since that particular value is marked with published, anytime you change it, it's going to tell all the different views that, hey, that value has changed. So I probably should refresh myself. And that is what's going to happen to your content view. It is going to refresh because you were actually using the value right there. If you were not using the value, then it will not refresh. There's no point in refreshing a view which didn't get updated because you were not really using the values. And finally, we can go back to our day and night. And this can also take the value again from the app state. So everybody is now taking the value from the app state. If app state is on, then sun, or else moon. All right. Let's go ahead and run this. And there we go. Our application is working as expected, but this time it is actually using the global state. We're not passing any binding or anything like that. We're just using the global state. Every view that we have can access the values from the global state and can also refresh based on when those values are actually changing. All right, let me go ahead and build it again. Okay, and that is pretty much it. So this was hopefully the basic introduction to SwiftUI, and especially the state management part, because the state management parts can definitely be, it can be tough to, to find out. All right. Now, any other questions that I can answer? Now, if you want to learn more about this, simply go to my website, which is called azamsharp.com. The link is right there in your chat, and you'll be able to find courses link over here. If you go to courses, there are a bunch of courses, a lot of courses actually, for SwiftUI, as well as a lot of courses for many other things related to iOS development. If you're just starting SwiftUI, then I would recommend that the I would recommend that the images that the SwiftUI declarative interfaces. Okay, so you can definitely start with that course. That will be like your first one. And then if you want to go with like other things, then you can start with like the other things. I mean, it gets it gets like a lot of different courses. Even like I think there's a code for all of these things. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and see what people are saying. If the state is on, which am I looking at? If the state is on, technically, I guess you want to show the moon over here and sun.max. All right, there we go. Fix that. What are the advantages of using the environment object over the state object? I have mainly used the state object when I am dealing with the view models or MVVM design pattern. Even though you can create the state object and then you can just inject it into the environment object, which will just behave like an environment object, I think my main point of using the state object has always been to use when I'm using the MVVM design pattern. When I'm creating those view models and initializing those view models with a state object. Now, there can be a question, hey, what's the difference between a state object and then there's an observed object? And I have a video. If you just search for online on YouTube, if you search for observe object, a state object, Azam Sharp, you should be able to find a very good video about that problem. But yeah, state object, if you create and inject it into environment object, then it will just behave like an environment object. But if you just create a state object like a view model, then it's a very different thing, because now you're creating a view model and you're doing all of those things. All right. Okay. So hopefully you have enjoyed this simple, stream where I introduce the SwiftUI and also the state management with SwiftUI. And this, I think it is getting recorded and all that stuff. It should be available on YouTube, so you can watch the recording also. But thank you everyone for coming. Check out the courses that I mentioned. I think those courses are definitely going to help you out. You can simply go to azamsharp.com and check out the courses that you want over there. And I think there's a deal going on right now with Udemy. Udemy sale is going on, so you can definitely get those courses. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter account is @AzamSharp. All right. My website is azamsharp.com. I also have a YouTube channel, I guess, where where you're watching all of this stuff. And this is, I think, where you can find my courses also. All right, so you'll be able to check them out. But that's pretty much it, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. This was definitely fun, and I will try my best to do it more times with the different topics. This does take a little bit of time to prepare, obviously, but this was definitely a lot of fun, and hopefully I get to do this again in the future with a different topic. But thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Really appreciate it, and hope to see you all in the future. All right. So once again, thank you so much.